Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Reesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Cantey, leadership coach, tenacious connector, and recovering banker. Please enjoy Cantey. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I'm here with Cantey. She is a leadership coach, tenacious connector, and recovering banker. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Mari. I'm excited to get to talk creativity today.
Ooh, me too. I'm super excited to talk creativity. And I love all of the pieces that you connect in leadership, recovering banker. I totally want to hear more about that and all of the other coaching and corporate America components that you bring. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So if you wouldn't mind just taking a couple of minutes and telling us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks for asking. I'm a leadership coach, and I help others be able to grow themselves and grow their business. And for 20 years leading up to this, I was in corporate America and traveled about 60% of the time in the banking industry, helping other people grow their business. And as I kept climbing through corporate America and the ladders that come with it, I just knew there was something else that I wanted to be able to give. And a few years before I left corporate, I decided to hire a coach, and she helped me make this transition. So it wasn't as startling as maybe those who didn't know I was doing this transition. It wasn't as startling as what it may have looked like. And I have been fortunate enough to use my creativity throughout corporate, which is kind of a funny thing because you don't think of corporate and creativity together. Yeah. But I had some amazing opportunities to work with incredible leaders, incredible CEOs, and to problem solve, we have to have a little bit of creativity. And if you're going to grow the business, you've got to be curious about what the business is trying to solve, what the struggling moments are. Mm-hmm. And we just have to keep asking questions and leaning in until we figure out what this true solution is that we need to be able to build. And you want it to be a win-win. And so you want it to be a win for the client. You want it to be a win for the business. And it's been a lot of fun. So I kind of took this leap of faith a few years ago, actually almost 2 years ago. And my network has been extremely kind to me, probably because I was too creative with them over the years. And even now, like on my own, there's a level of creativity. So, when you're selling or influencing, there's the 3 T's, which is teach and tailor and take control. Mm-hmm. So you want to teach people something new. You want to tailor it to their language, and then take control just by following up with business. But that stuff in the middle, the tailor part, that's all about creativity and using the client's language and being able to connect with people in the most effective way. So, so today I'm a leadership coach. I'm a consultant and helping other people just grow themselves and grow their business.
Wonderful. I love all of that. And yeah, you don't think creativity goes hand in hand with the corporate world. And yet I recently came across an article from Forbes magazine from, I think it was like 2018. And one of their headlines was creativity is the skill of the future. So
I love that.
It's there. People are noticing and recognizing how important creativity and innovation are to not only the performing arts fields, but also to the more business side of things. I guess that's what I would say as well. So
yes, it's there. And those who could create and problem solve, that's really what we need today is more creativity and more problem solving. So you're going to continue to survive and not just thrive, but just, really exceed expectations when you add that layer in.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful. And I love that you get to, share that piece with the business business side of things. So yeah, when you think about creativity, what does it mean to you personally to be creative?
For me, it means freedom, it means flexibility, it means solving problems
Mhm.
and making progress. And that can be anything from renovating houses that we've renovated over the years to commercial projects that we're doing now. Even in the coaching side of it,
Yeah.
you have to be creative in receiving the responses that people are giving you as you want to make improvements in your own life. And they don't have to be word for word what people suggest. You can
Mhm.
take it and make it your own and mold it and create your own spin and be able to implement some of those changes to even make it better than what maybe somebody started out with.
Yeah, I love that idea that there's freedom for you and creativity and yeah, taking in that big picture and taking it all in, rearranging pieces, making them fit more effectively together. Yeah, I think that is a huge aspect of creativity. And I imagine you said renovation, and all I can think of is all of the things that could potentially go wrong in renovating houses or anything like that. And I think, there's lots of challenges that we can face in these situations. And what are some of the kind of more creative challenges that you have faced, and how did you navigate them?
One thing that I've learned that has really helped me a lot is embracing constraints.
Oh,
And so when you have creativity, nothing is forever. Time is not forever. Resources are not forever. Creativity, at some point you got to say this is creative enough and I've done the best I can to be able to move on. And even today I'm putting up some lattice privacy fencing and to create like a green wall out in my yard. And we know that we have some plumbing lines, we have some electrical lines. And, ideally, I want this fence to be perfect and straight. And I want the post space the exact, perfect amount.
uh-huh.
And I'm realizing that we may have to adjust this a little bit and get creative. And
Yeah.
one panel may be set back a bit, and one panel may have to come up a bit. And we may just have to, I hate to keep repeating this, but like get creative with just the way the lattice and the fence is going to look. But
Yeah.
then what the beautiful thing is at the end, it's going to look way better than what I had originally anticipated. If I
Mm.
thought I was just going to get a straight line and now I have visual dimension as a result of whatever these constraints are, which
Mhm.
is I'm trying to work with electrical wires and plumbing that's going through the dirt that kind of interfere with the fence posts. So, you know, embrace the constraints and be okay with it. Same thing with renovating houses. It's so easy to start from a clean plate and start from scratch. And what I've found is renovating the old houses, if we can embrace where the plumbing lines are and know that we're going to keep the same plumbing lines there to be able to kind of control money,
Mhm.
um, keep the plumbing lines there, maybe keep the kitchen there, but then have freedom in the other spaces to recreate. It allows you just to embrace these constraints and feel like you're making a little bit of progress versus starting from that clean slate, which is scary for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you have so much trust in kind of like, yes, it's not how I 100% want it to look, but I trust that it will still look okay or still work in the way that it needs to work when it's finished, such as the fence and now having this new aspect of dimension in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like maybe I've set the bar too low for myself or set the bar too low for everything in life. But I just feel like when you go back and look at it, I didn't know why I had to take a left turn down a career path. And I don't know why I had to take a right turn down, for some other decision that I made. But like it feels like you're getting off the path, but really what you're doing is creating your own way. And
Yeah.
it's really turned out a heck of a lot better than what I ever imagined. So just trust that process.
Yeah, I love it. And I think of kind of the creating your own way aspect then, and that piece that comes with being a kid and, you know, kids make their own way in creative worlds and adventures. And when you think about your own early childhood or early memories, what's your earliest memory of being creative?
It's always been some form of art. It
Mm.
could be just pencils or paint or chalk on the sidewalk. It's always been some kind of that was creative. And then growing up, my parents every few years always renovated something within the house, but it was more cosmetic versus today. I'm I'll move plumbing lines and big substantial things like that. But it was always just visually creating growth within the home. So a room would transform, and then, that room would get done. And then if we've ever done remodeling, we all know that once you do one room, it triggers the next room, and then it triggers the next room. So you begin to see this evolution, but it just allows your brain to keep problem solving, even when you come home at the end of the day. And for me, that's a creative outlet to be able to keep that transition going on.
Yeah, I love it. You bring up chalk drawings and
Yeah.
I was doing that the other day with a friend and their son. We made a big obstacle course with chalk in the street, and that was
so fun.
So fun and so creative. And we forget, I think, sometimes just how accessible that type of action or creative play is to us. A piece of chalk and the street.
It doesn't get any better. And so we've always lived where we had dirt driveways or gravel driveways, but we finally have concrete, which is like a big success in my life that, 20 years into the marriage, we got a concrete driveway. It's awesome. So now we've got concrete, and we have an 8-year-old son, and he loves all the art and abstract and just creating endlessly. And it's just fun. You come home after a babysitter's been there with them, and they have like colored up the whole driveway. And I think it's beautiful. I mean, it's just, I think the one that comes to mind was Happy Earth Day. And it was like this big sunshine and block letters, and his scribbling around the outside of it. And it just kind of makes you happy.
I love it. Yeah. And it's not permanent. It'll, as soon as it rains or something, it'll disappear, and you get a whole new canvas to create something again. I love it. Nice. Wonderful. And when you are kind of in your day-to-day life, things, I mean, it sounds like lots of things inspire you, but walking around in your life these days, are there particular individuals or things that do inspire you, and what are they?
I love finding new podcasts, and I love just exploring different types of books. And lately, the weather's is beginning to get a little bit nice and warm, and the flowers are blooming. We're in South Carolina. We've got the azaleas going and the trees are going, and it's just really nice to be able to be around that nice bright green, live oak tree and the hanging branches. And it's a way to be able to get out of the house and get some fresh air and, a small bit of exercise. But there's creativity that can come to you while you're just going for a simple walk, listening to an audiobook or a podcast, or even just music, and allowing your brain just to kind of rumble and ramble and figure out, how are we going to problem solve something? And I feel, society has taught us we need to sit at the desk and read emails to solve problems. And the best answers that I've ever come across are coming from a walk, or they're coming from when I'm not sitting at a desk answering emails. The best stuff comes to me. And I feel like, as I read more and more about these uber successful people, success is not happening to them sitting behind a desk. It's happening while they're having that creative outlet. And I'm hoping that society is going to embrace that and realize that we just need to begin to look at life in a different way. And I think coming out of COVID, this could be a great eye opener for a lot of folks to realize, A, we don't have to sit in the desk 24/7 because we're already plugged in. But B, let's go for a walk or celebrate a little bit of a break to create a better quality of life, which then makes us more efficient at the jobs that we're doing.
Yeah, I love that. I agree. I think there's so much room for creativity and the opportunity to let our brains go offline, so to speak, big air quotes, and engage in a new way of thinking or a new way of seeing something. And there are companies that do utilize this, but I can understand how it's hard to say like a 3-hour ping pong event might, how do you convince corporate America that they need a 3-hour ping pong tournament to generate new ideas potential? So
right. Yeah, I think it just ebbs and flows, and we got to find ways to be able to balance it all. But
Yeah.
it definitely starts with at least getting a ping pong table
Right.
and a couple paddles,
Yeah.
and even at some of the cultures that I visit, they'll have a pool table, and there's still that stigma of if I go play pool during my lunch hour, they're going to think that I'm goofing off, but really they're
Right.
collaborating with another teammate over a project, and being able to have a piece of pizza for lunch while they're relaxed a little bit just to kind of see what kind of creative ideas come as a result. So there is that stigma, and we just all have to kind of work through it together.
Yeah. Are there any things that you like going into these corporate facilities or spaces that you encourage people to take breaks or utilize what's available?
Yeah, so I'm actually coaching a couple of leaders right now in one organization. And as they've climbed up through the ladder, they're realizing they're going to have to communicate differently and delegate differently, because as you climb up the ladder or get promoted, you're adding responsibilities to your
Mhm.
everyday. And so in order to be more effective, you're going to have to let some stuff go or be able to communicate more effectively. And as we're working together, um, we're celebrating the quiet time that they can take to go think and process and think about things strategically. What can
Mhm.
they release, and what do they absolutely need to hold on to? But the other part was, I was working with one gentleman who he's like, I don't ever get a break out of here. I have tons of vacation days, but I can't get out. And so we finally, over the course of an hour, I said, okay, what day of the week is best for you to take a vacation day? And he said Monday or Friday, because the rest of the week is just slammed with meetings. I said, okay,
Mhm.
great. I said, well, what would you do on that time if you could take it? He's like, I really just want to plant a garden. I said, well, that sounds great. I said, let's look at your calendar while we're just talking about, our check-in that we're doing. I said, just look and see which Monday or Friday could you actually go do this. And sure enough, he was like, actually, Friday this week might actually work. He said, I think I'm going to do this. I said, well, how do you do that? Do you have to like notify somebody, or do you just, how does this happen? He's like, oh, I just email my manager and let him know. I said, perfect. He said, this is great, because he's telling me I need to take a day off anyway. And he's like, I think I'm really going to do it. And so while we're on the phone, he's knocking out the email just saying, hey, I'm going to take Friday off. And he did. And it just allowed him, but we allowed him to look at the calendar, embrace your constraints, what days are really bad and what days are better for you to take off, and then visualize, what do you want to do at that time?
Yeah.
And he gets so excited, and I get excited about knowing there's going to be a day off.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And so we just executed it and made it happen. So I was proud of him for doing that.
Yeah, I love it. And I mean, I think even though taking one day off for some people might seem very small, it sounds like it was hugely impactful for this gentleman and really important. And I would be curious to hear like how it's impacted weeks, the next week or weeks to come too.
Yeah, we haven't touched base since he did that. So we've got another time scheduled, I think next week, to touch base. But I have another lady that I work with, and she schedules that quiet time to be able to think strategically about the business, because she's running a huge organization.
Yeah.
And she knows when she schedules that time, that downtime, thinking time, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
um, good things happen. There's not as much
Yeah.
stress throughout the week. And I'll talk to her. We've been working together for a year now, and I'll talk to her after she's had that time. She's got that
Mhm.
consistent time. So how's it going? She's like, it's like clockwork. Everything's going great. No
Mm.
major, issues. And then sometimes, we all just kind of get out of whack a little bit,
Mhm.
and life just kind of throws us a kind of a curveball, and you got to adjust. And so as a result, when we'll talk, sometimes she's like, oh, you know what? The common theme is I haven't been actively managing my time to have that strategic thinking time. And as a result, I'm reacting to everything instead of proactively encouraging
Mm.
people to take on these leadership responsibilities. And so then we just go back to it. What day of the week do you want to, when do you
Yeah.
want to dedicate? How many hours? What's the best time of the day for you to think? And then she gets back in the routine, and she's, off to the races.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just amazing how easily we can return to our old habits. and how it takes effort and attention and intention to really step back into a new pattern or a new habit. I love some neuroscience. And so it makes me think about how our brains are really designed to follow the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And, scheduling strategic thinking time may not be in that path of least resistance. It may take another path. So just recognizing how, you're really expanding your neural network in your brain by making that strategic planning time, building the garden, taking some time off. So I love all of that and how it impacts people in their life. Yeah.
Thank you. It's fun.
Good. I'm so glad. I love hearing. I think I probably have some stigma around corporate settings that everything is just, I don't know how you might see it in the movies or whatever. And so to hear that people are actively working to shift that is really delightful in my world to hear.
Yeah, I had an incredible 10-year run at one bank, and it was incredible because the person that I got to work with, the team that we were on, we were problem solving all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to hear what the client's challenges were. And because we had that relationship built between the client and the prospect and our team that were servicing and selling it, but then we also included the operations center and what was fully capable of working.
Yeah.
When we all came together, we created some really great results that benefited everybody. The operations folks are excited because we could streamline some of their work that they're doing for the client. The client's happy because we could alleviate some pain that they had. And then the team that we were on were excited that we were able to create, a win-win opportunity. So, not all corporate is rigid. And I have run across the areas that are extremely rigid. And that's, you got to be rigid in some areas, I suppose. But then, when you're solving these problems for clients and bridging these gaps, a little bit of creativity is there. It may not be a big creative solution
Right.
every time, but we can think creatively about it. And it could even just be the language that we use. Can we adapt our language to the client so the client easily understands what it is that we're trying to do and make it easier on that customer? It's all about the customer experience. And just, I've found working with one particular client, when I used their language and then came back and told the operations folks, this is what our client is calling this solution, and this is the language that they're using. If we can just kind of stick with their language, it makes life that much easier for the customer, and they want to come back and do work with us. So just because we invent the product and we name the product doesn't mean that it needs to stay that name, because it would sell so much easier if we know how the rest of the world's referring to it, who's willing to pay for that product.
Right.
So engage them and figure out what's your struggling point, and what do you want to call that thing if it gets fixed? And, it's exciting to see it come together.
Yeah. And it sounds like there's so much collaboration that happens in these, that you're creating products or solutions to problems.
It's not always that easy and fun. I'm just kind of highlighting the better days. We all know what it's like to build influence within an organization.
Sure.
And we all know about the silos and breaking down the silos and knowing there's some silos that would rather be turned on their sides than have to be broken down. So that's also a part of it.
Yeah. But being able to collaborate and use that creativity, even on those mundane tasks that we know we're just going to have to get through, I think can maybe alleviate some of the drudgery we might experience when we have to do it.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And, the collaboration aspect makes me think of community and how community really does influence and impact creativity. And I wonder, in your own life, what are the communities, or how does your community impact and influence your own creativity?
A few years ago, our local United Way reached out to us to actually chair their event that actually raises money, because some of their federal funding got cut and they needed to raise money in the community. And the money was going to an organization called New Day on Mill. And it is a transition shelter for women and kids. And these folks are homeless. And 95% of the time when they go through this program and move into this house, 95% of the time they move into permanent housing and are able to get their kids back if they had to give them up, or they're able to just reestablish their life, because everybody's got different stories and we can't begin to understand all the different decisions that are coming at different people at different phases. So it's a incredible organization that is able to be able to get people back into homes. And part of this is the creativity of fundraising and the creativity of making it fun, but also an event that, people want to go to and also advocate for. Within the houses that these folks live in, they have little tiny cottages that they live in with the mom and the kids to get them back on their feet back into permanent housing. And so you've got to embrace constraints of, all right, we got a 1-bedroom, or we have a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and mom's got 4 kids. And, how can we make this home nice for them while they're transitioning back into permanent housing? And so also, like, just donations within the community. A lot of people think that they need to be financial. And while New Dam Mill does like incredible amounts of just stretching that dollar like I've never been able to see. But if people don't have money, they have talents. And so it could be a yard service that somebody could donate time just to come and clean up the yard and put down pine straw. And so they could have connections with that. And just being creative with reaching out to people and knowing that you've got a couple bullet points. If anybody ever asks, what is that particular house and what are they doing? They got cars coming and going. And if you can just have a few bullet points that make it easy for people to understand what we're doing within the community, that's another way to be able to get people curious and engaged and help problem solve different opportunities that are in our own community.
Nice. I love it. And what a great organization, and what a great tool and collaboration that's happening. It sounds like the community is also coming together and supporting these women and children in their transition as well. I think it's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. And, creativity, many people don't see themselves as being creative, or that creativity isn't for them. What would you, or how would you encourage others to find creativity in their lives? Or do you run across this with the people that you coach?
That's a great question. So this just came to me. So if you have a PC and you have a space bar in your keyboard, to the left and to the right is a button. It's an Alt key, an ALT. And this is the beginning of the process that we use in coaching. And it's all about ask, listen, and thank. And so in this instance, we would ask Mari, what are 1 or 2 things I can do in the future to become more creative? And we don't want to talk about the past, because people don't feel good about offering solutions on things that we messed up. But if we could just talk about this future that hasn't happened yet, they're more likely to give you good information. So the question you want to start with is ask, what are 1 or 2 things I can do in the future to become more creative? The next step is listen. And so we just want to listen to what's being said. We don't want to judge the answers and tell them I've tried all of that and they're not going to work. But just listen to what they have to say. And the last piece is just say thank you. And don't guarantee anything, but just take that information, go back and think about it, and think if you want to change or create a spin-off of whatever the suggestion was. And the secret to creating that visualization that you are becoming more creative is go back to that person and let them know what you tried and what you're willing to do going forward. So anytime you feel like you're getting stuck and you're stuck in corporate America, you've got a keyboard in front of you. Most of us are all issued a computer. And to the left and to the right are the Alt keys. So get started with asking, listening, and thanking.
Nice. I love it. What a great little acronym. And it is right there in front of us all day, every day, for many of us, I should say. Maybe not all of us, but yeah. And I love you kind of wove in a little secret to creativity. And I think that is such a great little nugget to share with people, and good reminders, the asking, listening, and thanking. Because I think a lot of times we do ask and maybe we listen, but maybe we don't think what came up, and recognizing that things can change. We can take an idea and have an offshoot from it, and that it doesn't have to stay as rigid as it started, maybe, and being able to have some more flexibility. Because I think that's where a lot of creativity lives, in the flexibility that we can find. Yeah, I love it. Well, this has just been such a treat to chat with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time. And if people wanted to learn more about the things that you do, how would they go about doing that?
Thank you, Mari. My website is catherinecantey.com, and that's spelled with a C. And then also, I post regularly on LinkedIn, and my name on LinkedIn is simply Catherine Cantey. And if you can find me on LinkedIn or find me on my website, I'll be happy to connect and see how I can help you.
Wonderful. And I will put all of that in the show notes as well. But thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me about creativity today. It has been such a treat.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.